Welcome to the Cultivation Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Hamill, and today we are talking about what it means to be a safe space or a safe place and how we catch people succeeding versus failing. So let's get into it. If you've been around this show, been around these episodes, my other talks for very long, and if you haven't, go check them out. We've got a whole bunch of content in seasons 3, 2, 1. Season 3 is all about the interviews, and we've got a lot of amazing people that allowed me to sit down with them and interview them. But one of the things that's a common thread of the cultivation life is we talk openly and honestly about our failures. And we talk about the failure loop, an incredible tool that I've created and talked about and mapped out in my book, The Life You're Meant to Lead, that we mapped that out, that failure is a key ingredient to our success. Failure is the DNA of success, or in the DNA of success, all of those kinds of things. And so we're pretty open and honest about failure and that it's going to happen and how to do it successfully. But today's question or topic is not about our own failures, but what happens when those around us fail? What do we do? How do we react? How do we respond when someone near to us, someone dear to us, someone close to us fails? What is the outcome, or what is the response? What does that look like when people are failing all around us, or maybe just around us? Hopefully you're not surrounded by failure, but you get what I'm talking about. In their pursuit of becoming the person they're meant to be and awakening to their identity, what happens when people fail around us? I've been in leadership for a long time, been leading people and others for pretty much my entire life. My entire career has been based off of that. And one of the things that I was super intentional about creating was an environment or an atmosphere of risk takers, because until you're taking risks, you're not really living. Until you're taking risks, you're not really growing. You're not really stepping out. And the fallout or the outcome of risk is always going to be failures. And so my question to you would be, if nobody's failing around you, are you a safe place that encourages people to take a risk, people to try new things, to step out or step into a new opportunity or a new adventure? Because part of risks is failing. It's why some companies, it's why some businesses, they don't want to take a risk. They don't want to step out because they're afraid to fail. But because failure is a natural outcome or byproduct of taking a risk. And so with that, we've got to be mindful that if people aren't taking risks around us, if people aren't failing around us, are we a safe place that is really encouraging and championing and celebrating taking risks? I know that when I used to lead a group of teenagers and young people, they're so afraid to fail. They're so afraid to be embarrassed, which honestly, if we're being transparent, we all are. And so what we did was we created a culture that celebrated not even necessarily somebody's success. We didn't necessarily celebrate somebody's failure. We celebrated the fact that they were taking risks and trying something new. I know that recently my wife became a health coach. She's now at like year 3 of being a health coach, and she's taken a huge risk. She's taken a lot of personal risks to grow as a leader and lead others in their health journey as well. And what we determined was early on, before success was an option, before failure was an option, we were just celebrating. We ingrained it into our lives that we're celebrating taking risks. That's how we become a safe space or a safe place for others, is that before they have a chance to succeed, before they have a chance to fail, we're already celebrating that they took the risk. And guess what happens when you're celebrating me that I took the risk? It builds confidence, and it actually increases my likelihood of being successful, because you've increased my confidence. You've let me know that you're a champion, you're a cheerleader for me. And if I know somebody's got my back, that's like a fresh wind in my sail, pushing me forward into this opportunity, this adventure, and the likes of those kinds of natures. So When it comes to being a safe space or a safe place, I just want to ask you right up front, do you celebrate people around you taking risks? Do you celebrate people trying something that maybe isn't the norm for your group? Do you celebrate people trying things that no one else in your circle of friends would try? If you will learn to celebrate that, then you will become the safe space or the safe place or the safe person that they look to, right? And a part of that, kind of the next phase of that is, are you catching people failing? Are you catching people succeeding? That's really two different mindsets when it boils right down to it. Because everyone is afraid of failure. Everyone is really kind of saying failure is more common than success, which is kind of true. You know, when you think about, let's say success for some person is making it to the big leagues, whatever sport that is, right? Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, whatever it is, right? Hockey, you name the sport, WNBA, which is more apropos for my household as I have two daughters and a house full of girls, of ladies. And so, you know, WNBA, that sort of thing, you know, so they're saying, hey, the likelihood that I'll make it isn't very big because most people don't make it to that level of athlete or sponsorship or stardom or whatever the case is. Make it big in the music industry. You can just name whatever example that you would want. We're more likely to fail than succeed. So failure is what people kind of expect. But if we could do a mind shift, a transformation of our mind, where our brain is retrained to stop looking for failures in people and start looking for successes, we become a safe space where it's like, hey, I caught you being successful at this thing. I caught you growing. I caught you investing in yourself. I caught you contending for and fighting for that future identity and that future self. I caught you doing the hard work and doing the grit work. I caught you doing this. And so we train our brains and our eyes to start finding and looking for and seeking out and celebrating success moments rather than failure moments. People are already walking around with enough insecurities, enough self-doubt, enough self-talk that they already feel like a failure, which is why they don't take the risk to begin with. It's why they don't step out to begin with, because they already feel like, well, I ventured down that a little bit and didn't work out exactly as I thought, so I'm not going to pursue that, when they really should pursue that music career, that writing career, that sports career, that adventure, that business idea, right? Fill in the blank. But they need people like you and me living out the cultivated life, walking in the cultivated journey that has trained our brain and recalibrated our brain, that instead of looking for people messing up, instead of looking for people to fail, we're actually catching them succeeding. We're catching them investing in themselves and awakening to that idea of who they are and who they're becoming and what they're awakening to in their own purpose, destiny, and how that really makes all of our lives better. Here's the thing. When we catch people succeeding, we raise their bar of expectation, right? So I caught you succeeding. Now kind of puffs up your pride, puffs up your ego, and you're like, yes, I can do this. And it raises the bar of quality work, of standard, the quality of effort and your standard of effort. It raises that bar. And now you start expecting yourself to succeed because somebody is speaking success into your life and catching you being successful. When I catch people or you catch people at failing, all it does is raise fears. All it does is raise the doubt. All it does is raise the criticism. So are we a safe space? Are we a safe person? Are we one of those places that people look to and turn to? Here's the difference. If I catch them failing, it raises more fear. If I catch them succeeding, it raises the bar, raises the expectation, raises the standard. Here's the deal. Whenever somebody's taking risks, I've tried to instill this as a parent. I've tried to instill this as a husband. I've tried to instill this as a mentor, as a coach, as a pastor, as all these things. I've tried to instill this one principle, that failure is not an if, but a when. People will fail. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to not finish what they started. They're going to, hit some bumps in the roads that kind of hijacks and changes and transforms the way they had planned it and mapped it out to be. But as they do that, could you train ourselves to focus not on the failure, but focus on the lesson to learn from the failure. If we go back to the failure loop, right? We risk, we fail, we learn, we grow, and then we succeed. And so as we focus on the failure loop, as we live out the failure loop, we can actually instill the failure loop in others by saying, hey, you failed, you messed up, you blew it, you missed the mark, you missed that opportunity, or whatever the case might be where the failure happens. And instead of focusing on the failure, listen, we do that internally enough on our own. They don't need another person coming alongside saying, see, I told you so. I told you that wasn't going to work. Blah, 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 blah. Yep, right? That's what all that sounds like. It's Charlie Brown's parents. Wah, 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 wah. Rather, to be a safe place, to be a safe space, we come along somebody and go, okay, you failed. All right, what's the lesson that you learned? Because if you've learned the lesson, now you're going to grow, which puts you back into the failure loop that leads to success. Because you learned the lesson, you learned the thing that you needed to learn, and now you need to grow by it. Now you can change by it. And so you can actually start the path for them to success by helping them figure out the lesson, help them put a plan together on how to grow from that lesson, or how to change, or how to be different, or how to approach it next time. And so to be a safe space, to be a safe place, to be that person that raises the bar in somebody else's life, what we do is we focus more on the lesson than the failure. Failures are going to happen. Failures will happen in all of us that are taking risks. And hopefully, as we surround ourselves with people, we surround ourselves with risk takers. I want to be surrounded by nothing but risk takers. People are willing to venture out and try new things and be awakened to that identity and possibility and purpose in their lives. And because of that, I know that there will be people who will fail around me. And my job, my role, your job, your role is to become that safe space, that safe place where you're catching them where they're succeeding, to build their confidence and to awaken and raise the bar of their own expectations, and help identify and help them find and discover the lesson in their failure. That's so important. It's so powerful. And it changes us from being critical to being helpful. It changes us from being the critique and the critic to being the guide or the help or the safe space. So I want to encourage you, become that safe space, find the lesson, catch them being successful, celebrate people stepping out and taking the risk. Hey, I'd love for you to share your story with us on social media. I'd love for you to share this episode on social media. We're on all the platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, all that kind of stuff. We read those comments, we respond, and we interact with them. So we'd love for you to share, like, post, comment on those as we walk out this journey together. You can check out this episode and all of our episodes and other resources that we make available on our website, ourcultivatedlives.com. You can get the book and other books that we recommend and tons of other things. Go there. Again, it's ourcultivatedlives.com, and that is the Cultivation Podcast. Thanks for checking us out today. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the incredible content we have coming out. Also, we'd love to hear from you in the comment section. We read those, we respond to those as we journey together in the cultivated life.